Hello, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Goose Games. It is your friend the Goose, and the Goose has landed. Ha! And we are here today with my first top 10 list. I tweeted the other day, if you don't follow me on Twitter, at the Goose Games. If you don't follow me on Facebook, the Goose Games. And of course, please like, comment, subscribe on this video, subscribe to the channel. I need to get better at plugging those things. So please do that for me if you haven't already. But I did a poll. Which would you rather see first? My top 10 MCU movies or my top 10 wrestlers? And my top 10 wrestlers won. Or top 10 MCU movies won. That's why we're here. So we're going to dig right into it. I have my laptop open right now as well. Because if I forget like an actor's name or something like that, I want to be able to jump right in and get the right answers for you guys. So starting off at number 10 is going to be Ant-Man. Ant-Man was a very unique movie because I thought it was a real risk. Now, I don't remember if Guardians came out first or Ant-Man. I believe Guardians came before, right? But in any case, like, those were the real risky movies of the first incarnation of the MCU. Like, Guardians, nobody knew who they were, and Ant-Man, I had no idea who Ant-Man was, and because of the name Ant-Man, I didn't take it seriously. And frankly, this was wrong of me, but I didn't take it seriously because of Paul Rudd. I love Paul Rudd, the actor. I love him. I did not see him as a superhero. And I think it works so well because I think the way the MCU presents Paul Rudd and Scott Lang is he's the everyman. He is the regular audience member who got handpicked. Michael Douglas, Hank Pym, picked him. He chose him to become Ant-Man. He scouted him. And if he hadn't, it could have been any other normal person. And I think they've nailed that with Ant-Man. Now, anytime a new character is introduced and is going to get a movie, they do the same thing in the first movie. Superhero finds power, villain has similar power or suit, and then they fight. But I thought they did enough things different with Ant-Man that made it stick out for me. The entire training scene at Hank Pym's house, where like he's trying to dive through the keyhole. One of my favorite moments in the entire movie is when they're in the backyard and out of nowhere he burst out of the dirt, and he's like, "Oh!" That part was just hysterical. His entire interaction with Falcon was brilliant. I loved that. Oh my goodness, that was handled so perfectly. Ant-Man was a lot of fun. I thought the villain, Yellow Jacket. Let me look up the actor's name right now. Yellow Jacket, something Cross is his name, I believe. I almost said Karrion Cross like the wrestler. But I thought he was good. I liked him. He was kind of like generic white man. Like he didn't have a lot going on, but he killed people. I mean, when he turns that dude into he's in the bathroom with the guy, and he hits him with it, and he just turns into goop. Like, he was serious. At least he was out here killing people. And I liked the performance. I thought there was a lot of edge to it. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find this actor's name. I'm an actor myself. Darren Cross is the name of the character, but I just really like to give actors appropriate credit because I think a lot of people don't ever know these people's names, and I like to give credence to these actors' performances and just all that good stuff. Where is this damn? Okay, I can't find his name. It's whatever. But I thought he had a good performance. The show stealer was Michael Pena. Bottom line, Michael Pena was absolutely excellent. All I want is him to review the entire MCU. That's what I want. You can keep your Secret Wars. You can keep Galactus. Give me Michael Pena. Yeah, but I really enjoyed that. And now we're going to move to number 9. One of the movies I took some notes on because I wanted to make sure I had my thoughts all together This movie was top 5 when I saw it. Like, I had it in my top 5. No movie has dropped down my ranking as much as this movie. And that's Spider-Man Homecoming. Um, Now, the reason it's on my list is because in the MC of live action Spider-Man, Tom Holland is the definitive Spider-Man, in my opinion. I thought he was the most accurate Peter Parker, the most accurate Spider-Man. He was the appropriate age. He's not 30 in real life, so I buy that that's actually him. The directing was excellent. It felt like an 80s high school movie. Like it had that like Breakfast Club, 16 Candles vibe to it. The soundtrack nailed it in helping that. Um, Let me keep going with the positives before I get into the negatives about Homecoming. I really like Ned. The only scene I didn't like Ned was the whole part where he keeps asking Peter questions about Spider-Man. Like, dude, you gotta be discreet. Like, you're just anybody could hear you talking to Peter about him being Spider-Man. Like that scene was kind of annoying. Um, but Ned was a happy addition. I liked the way they changed the type that they cast for Flash because I feel like the way I interpreted it, the modern bully is not necessarily the football player anymore. It's the cerebral bully, and that's what Flash is. In this sense, in the Homecoming universe. Zendaya, I think Zendaya did a lot better in Far From Home. Not that she did bad here, but I just didn't. I wasn't sure what to make of the character. I liked the performance, but it was unique for me. I loved her in Far From Home. Like I thought that was the movie she stole. But Homecoming, the biggest positive I can say about Homecoming is Michael motherfucking Keaton. He is one of the best actors to ever do it, in my opinion. He's one of the best Batman ever. Apparently, he would always whisper to Tom Holland on set, just like, I'm Batman, to give him a reminder, which I love. But Michael Keaton brought a level of credibility to this movie. Like, they didn't handle Shocker well. Um, I liked the childish Gambino, Donald Glover, I should say, Prowler reference. I don't know if they ever go back there. I hope they do, but um, Keaton was the shining star of what was considered like the evil group, of course, because he was Vulture. But he had some scenes in this movie, man. I like the fact that like he's the Vulture, but also him, the character, is a Vulture. He picks scraps, like he's taking these scraps from these accidents and selling them. He's a vulture in real life. He's a vulture. I love that. Um, the scene that really made it for me was when the door opened when Peter was picking up MJ, or not MJ. I can't remember the other character's name. The red herring, the one we kind of thought was MJ at first. Um, and it's Michael Keaton. That was genuinely shocking. Like, I go into a lot of movies with spoilers. I'm not somebody who puts a lot of weight into that. Like, I don't care if I know where the story's going. I want to know how you execute. That, I had no clue. And I let out an audible gasp in the movie theater when he opened it. Like, that was shocking. When Peter shakes his hand and he's like, hell of a grip. Like, and then what, in my opinion, is the best scene in the MCU ever, maybe the car drive to the homecoming dance. Oh my god. The tension in that scene was palpable. When you watch Michael Keaton put it all together in his head, and you watch Tom Holland squirming because he knows he's putting it together. And then when Michael Keaton grabs the gun, he doesn't even show it to Peter. It's as if he knows, like, that should have been the moment we saw Spidey Sense, by the way, when he pulls the gun. But it's as if Vulture knew Peter would know he had the gun now. Like, it wasn't a flashy threat. It was, I am considering killing you. That's what that moment was. It was beautiful. I teared up on the final fight scene, which the final fight scene is another negative for this movie, I'd say. But when he burst out, come on, Spider-Man, and that's beautiful. That's the character. But the final fight scene, the whole thing on the plane, I thought was very generic looking. The problems I had with this movie were the problems I have with the MCU's handling of Spider-Man as a whole. It's like because they have to negotiate with Sony every time they want to use him, they're afraid to use him to his full potential. Like, they don't want to make Spider-Man the head of their universe if in 2 years Sony isn't going to give him back. So it's almost like Spider-Man has been regulated to a B-list character. He wasn't top billing in his own movie. I mean, realistically, he was the name on the top of the marquee or whatever, but Iron Man was. Like, and then in Far From Home, like, it was just always, I need to see Peter as a star. In the third Spider-Man movie, I want to see him, like, get stripped of the Stark suit and all of that technology. Peter doesn't need Tony Stark. He doesn't. Peter can create his own web shooters, his own web, his own suit, his own everything. I understand the need for Iron Man to give him capital. That can be fine. Give him a grant. And then let Peter do it himself. But now Doctor Strange is in Iron Man and Spider-Man 3. And I'm assuming that's because of the multiverse. But I need a solo Spider-Man story for Tom. He deserves that. He's the definitive Spider-Man. He deserves his definitive movie. And they need to do it with Spider-Man 3. They have to. Otherwise, you're getting to the point where you're going to have butchered your entire handling of the character. So I really hope they turn it around. But to end on a positive, Michael Keaton, Tom Holland. Oh, and I didn't say this, I don't think. I'm not a Tobey Maguire fan. I hated him as a kid. When I was a kid watching those movies, I was like, this isn't Spider-Man. It's just too on the nose for the nerd character. Like, it never felt like Peter. It felt like whatever Tobey was doing. I didn't even like Willem Dafoe that much. Like, it was like a Shakespearean performance in a superhero movie. It was so over the top. Spider-Man 2 is a masterpiece, and Spider-Man 3 is dog shit. Moving up to number 8. Did I take notes on this one? Yes, I did. Black Panther. Black Panther, first and foremost, just what it represented in terms of representation and showing young black kids that they are represented in media and they can play a superhero or they can play a Shuri or any of these characters. The representation is a 10 out of 10 and completely admirable and beautiful. I like that the MCU is starting to do that more. Shang-Chi now was an entire, I believe Chinese. I don't want to misspeak, but I believe Shang-Chi was a completely like Chinese set in terms of the writers, the directors, the crew. I like the way they they keep it to the culture. I love that, and this was the start of that, and this was a cultural phenomenon. I'm gonna read my notes for this one. The theme of this felt like something like my age group almost deals with today. It's like the sins of the previous generation that all of these characters are left to deal with, especially T'Challa. Now, rest in power and in peace, Chadwick Boseman. God, I kind of I didn't even when I was reviewing this, I didn't even make the connection that this would come up, but I sobbed when I found out. Um, mm, not trying to cry, not trying to cry. But you never know what people are going through, so don't be so judgmental. He was getting mocked on the internet for being skinny. Like, just don't be an asshole. um, I'm an emotional guy. Sorry, I wasn't ready to talk about Chadwick. Um, yeah, but the sins of the previous generation like created Killmonger, who is another top 3 MCU. I gotta turn my fan on. Sorry, getting emotional like that got my neck hot. He's a top 3 villain. It's like Michael Keaton, Loki, Thanos, and Killmonger. Like in any order, that's it. Um, and it's the thing about Killmonger was it was reasonable. He didn't cheat to get there. He didn't cheat to beat up T'Challa. He beat the shit out of him and threw him over a hill. Like, T'Challa is kind of the privileged side, and Killmonger's the non-privileged. And I think that's what Killmonger was meant to wake. A good villain changes the hero after their arc. And Killmonger did that to T'Challa because at the end of the movie, he opens the world up. He opens Wakanda up to the world. And that's beautiful. Let me see. I love the use of percussion in the soundtrack. It just felt so perfect for the movie. Getting into some negatives. First off, more positives. I love oh, what is her name? The character's name. Black Panther. I'm sorry. There's just a lot of MCU movies. I can't remember everybody's name. Nakia. Nakia. No, that's not who. Okoye from Denai Guerrero. She's Michonne in The Walking Dead, and she's incredible, and she's excellent in this movie. Shuri, I think, was like who I thought was the star, other than Chadwick coming out of this movie. I was like, Shuri can lead a movie. Shuri can be the Black Panther going forward, and I hope that's where they go. It was everything good about that movie. Oh, it left you moved and empowered, and it's beautiful. But there are some flaws I have to talk about. Killmonger kind of disappears after the first scene for like almost an hour, it felt like, and that was disappointing. Um, the pacing of Killmonger taking over, Chadwick or T'Challa coming back, it was very rushed. It almost felt like The Dark Knight Rises in that way, where like break the back, he does some push-ups, and he's back. Like it kind of felt like that. Like this arc would have been better in a 2-movie arc, or one thing I wrote down. I don't know that you needed Claw as much as he was used. Like Killmonger could have killed Claw in the first scene, and then you could have gotten more into M'Baku's tribe. Why are they ousted? You could have got more into Killmonger and T'Challa. It didn't have to just be he shows up, fights, and kills. There could have been a build to the fight and then the kill. Like, so the pacing in the beginning to the mid movie I didn't love. And let me see what else I had. The final fight, I understand everything about why what it meant. I mean, it's the Underground Railroad. It's a lot of things, but I thought the CGI was shaky. The plot device of like it stops the vibranium. I don't know. The final scene didn't hit as hard for me. I couldn't really see. It felt like an MCU ending. It didn't. Black Panther was so unique, and anything it did well was unique. They didn't. It wasn't them trying to fit a mold. And there were moments where it felt like they were just trying to make it an MCU movie. The SUV chase, the final fight, the big fight with the rhinos. Like, I wish they didn't cater to the MCU side of it and just made it its own unique movie. But I'm realizing now we're like 18 minutes in and I'm only 3 movies down, so I'm going to pick up the pace. Number 7. Now, the hardest thing in this list is figuring out where to put the actual Avengers movie. Spoiler alert, Age of Ultron didn't make the cut. But number 7, I'm putting Infinity War. Infinity War was breathtaking. It's like the largest scale a film can be produced at. Thanos is incredible. This movie could have just been called Thanos. Like, it was totally his movie. Josh Brolin was breathtaking. You fully understand why he's doing what he's doing. And he follows a very strict moral code. There's a lot of times Thanos could kill people, and he doesn't. He leaves Thor tied up in the metal at the beginning, and he doesn't kill him. He only kills Loki when he provokes him. He doesn't kill Tony on Titan. Like, he has a moral code, and he sticks to it. He is the hero of his own story, and he believes everything he's doing is right. And I think he's the best villain ever, like, in the MCU or any superhero movie other than Heath Ledger. The brilliant pairings and the use of the different characters, the group on Titan, the group on Earth, Thor, Rocket, and Groot. I thought every group was absolutely flawless. You put them right where they needed to be. One thing that was shocking for me when I saw this, it was funnier than advertised. Like, the trailer was hopeless. But then this was a very funny MCU movie, and while it was funny and good, they could have leaned a little more into the seriousness of what becomes the ending. Um, Hawkeye just eats shit, I guess, for this one. um, and they did it. They ended a movie with the hero winning. I've been calling for that for years, just for like the meta factor of like it'll never happen, and they did it. He snapped, and it's over. And the snap and the you should have went for the head meant so much to Thor's arc. Like, oh my goodness. Thor's arc in Infinity War and Endgame is, in my opinion, the best of any of the characters. I think I'll talk about Endgame in a little bit, but in this, his hubris is his arrogance, and I mean, go back to Thor 1. That's why he was deemed not worthy. So it was just perfect. Um, Now I don't want to. I could talk about how all the good things about Infinity War till the end of the day, but I won't because you guys know how good it is. The opening scene: Earth is closed today, Squidward. Um, when Eitri was like, "You'll die," and Thor was like, "That'll only happen if I stop breathing or something," and Eitri's like, "Yes, that's what dying is." Like it was just hilarious, and Infinity War is excellent. I love it. Um, any negatives? I love the way the Avengers were left, like the original Avengers. I loved that plot point. Oh, the worst part about Infinity War to me was they nerfed Hulk. I did not like that Hulk got the shit beat out of him at the beginning of that movie. Like it, that shouldn't be able to happen. He gets madder and madder and madder. Like that to me, Thanos could have been what brought on the World Breaker Hulk story. Instead, he just punked him. My biggest gripe with the Infinity War and Endgame, and I'll get into it more in Endgame, is the fact that the Hulk just feels thrown to the side. Like, Hulk, it's almost like they knew if Hulk was at full strength, it wouldn't be that much of a fight. Like, they needed to nerf the Hulk's ability, and they needed to have this battle between Banner and Hulk so that it's a more reasonable fight. Okay, but I am going to jump into. Sorry, my phone just got a ton of notifications. I'm making sure it's nothing dire. I'll jump into number 6, The Avengers. The original Avengers movie is my number 6. First time I watched it, I was at Stockton for the weekend as a freshman. It had been out for a few years. I was in the campus center. They had that fake red box. Nobody was on my floor. Like the campus was a ghost town. So I rented The Avengers, went back to my room, and watched it, and was blown away. The opening with Loki's arrival, taking over Hawkeye and Selvig, just what this movie meant at the time. The scenes between the seeds being sowed for Black Widow and Hulk's romantic angle in Age of Ultron. To me, I've always said Avengers could have almost been Iron Man 3 in the way that Tony was the absolute lead of this movie. Um, it starts the seeds for Civil War. This movie, oh my god, it's just breathtaking. It's an incredible movie. The final fight in New York. It changed the game of every superhero movie to ever be made. It changed everything. The Avengers was the realization of what the MCU kind of is now. The way DC felt like they were catching up because of the Avengers. Like it forced everyone to change the way they operated within the business. Loki as the main villain, incredible. Captain America, kind of like he starts to do his own research, so he's not just like naive when he goes and finds the Hydra weapons, and it leads to that big scene right before the fight on the aircraft. Um, it's just incredible. I could talk about Avengers all day. It's a perfect film, and the only reason it's not higher up is just because they kind of outgrew it. Like what they can do is just so much bigger now. Now number 5, Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok was shocking to me. Thor 1 was meh for me. Like, it had a Shakespearean feel, but it didn't go all the way there. Second Thor sucked. It's like a bottom 3 MCU movie. And then this movie. They brought in Taika Waititi. They realized what they had in Chris Hemsworth. And they nailed perfectly what Thor should be for the MCU. Oh my goodness, everything about it. The scene where he's swinging around when he's talking to is it Surtur? Is that who brings on Ragnarok? Surtur? It's incredible. Hela, Kate Blanchett. Oh my goodness, that when I talk about Shakespeare and Shakespearean villains, that's what Hela was, man. Oh my God, Hela was breathtaking. When the one guy's like, "Whoever you are," and she's like, "Were you even listening?" Like, she just killed it. Carl Urban or Keith, not Keith, or Carl Urban as Scourge was great. I loved the use of Hulk and Mark Ruffalo. And this is the funniest movie in the MCU ever. This is hysterical. And the fact that it's apparently like 80% improvised, oh my God, that makes me respect it even more. That scene, my favorite moment is definitely when they have Loki tied up and like Banner's like, "Can we trust him?" And he's like, "Oh well." Thor tells the story about the snake, and he's like, "Oh, my brother knew I love snakes," and he was like, "Ah!" And then he stabbed me. Like, that is, you can see Loki smile. And while at one point I know that's like a brotherly, that was funny. I almost felt like it was Tom Hiddleston just laughing at how hysterical Chris Hemsworth is. And that's what this movie fully realized was Chris Hemsworth is a comedic genius. Like, his comedic timing is bar none. Like, it's absolute top notch. Um, the shattering of Mjolnir, Anthony Hopkins, his beautiful goodbye, which apparently if you remember the first trailer when Hela catches Mjolnir and cracks it, she's in New York City. And that's because initially, when they go to the retirement home that's being torn down, they had Anthony Hopkins as like a crazy babbling old man in the original, and then they just changed it to the we'll go to a Scottish countryside for this, which I like, but I would have liked to see Anthony Hopkins go a little crazy. Um, just everything about this film, man. I'm trying to think of any more points I want to hit about Thor Ragnarok before I move on. The Doctor Strange sequence is incredible. But really, bottom line, if you ever want just a funny movie and you want to laugh as much as possible, Thor Ragnarok's the best movie for you to watch. Thor Ragnarok is incredible. Taika Waititi absolutely nailed it. Korg was hysterical. Just everything. Oh my God, how could I not mention Valkyrie? Oh my God, Valkyrie. Tessa Thompson, just breathtaking. Um, the scene where she's coming off her ship and she falls because she's drunk. Just, oh my goodness. She was flawless. And I loved the fact that they never went. I was afraid they were going to try to do the romantic thing with her and Thor. And I'm glad they didn't. Because I think we might get a much more interesting romance for her in the next movie. And I don't think it'll be with a man, which I love. More representation, please. Now, number 4. Avengers Endgame. I almost put it number 1. I mean, just to tell you guys what this movie meant to me, I saw the original Iron Man in the movie theater 3 times. I've been with this ride from the very beginning. I was in 8th grade when it started. Um, so to see all of those moments realized in Endgame, it was kind of like fan service of the film, and it worked. Like, it was beautiful. Um, like right from the start, it just they go and they cut off Thanos' head to start the movie. Holy hell, where do we go from 5 years later? Oh my God! Like, and then a rat saves the universe by letting Scott Lang out. Um, this movie, Scott Lang, I absolutely loved. I thought Ant-Man was handled perfectly in this movie. Please tell me you're not basing your entire theory of time travel off of Back to the Future. Of course not. Well, thank God. That whole sequence is amazing. The ship landing, and he like waves at Nebula, and she's like, "There's an idiot in the landing zone." Just everything was flawless. Some of the best parts were my favorite thing. Like, I don't know what to call this. Fat Thor and the way they handle that story is my favorite handling of anything in the MCU ever. Um, it really struck home hard for me. Um, I mean, I'm a heavy set guy, but that's only one part of it. But like, it's a matter of you can grieve and you can go through ups and downs in life, extreme grief to the point where it changes your physical appearance and your goals. And the moment he puts his hand out and Mjolnir still comes and he says, "I'm still worthy." Like I got choked up saying that. Like, because you are. No matter what you go through in life, you are still worthy. Oh God, I'm emotional again. Um, I'm gonna get more emotional because my favorite scene in the MCU ever. I'm sorry, my phone is just exploding right now. Um, my favorite scene in the MCU ever is Thor's scene with his mom. I lost my mom when I was a kid, and the moment he gets to have with his mom is something any child who lost a parent dreams of. I mean, we've all had that dream where you meet them again and you talk to them as an adult and a new self. And when she's like, "I was raised by witches, boy. Like, I know this isn't you." And he's like, "Oh, I'm totally from the future." That entire sequence, I cried in the movie theater. I mean, I cried like, I think my count was I cried 9 times and then continuously for the final 10 minutes. But that one was real. That struck really hard for me. And the fact that they went there with the "you're still worthy no matter what," just mm, absolutely beautiful. Um, Captain America and Black Widow at the beginning when they're grieving he says like the fact that there's whales in the harbor and she's like, "You better not be putting a positive spin on this." Just the way it's sad as hell. It's almost the dark movie we thought Infinity War was going to be. Now, granted, it has its moments. Endgame, time travel. Somebody peed my pants. Like, of course. And I'm Peter Parker. Hey, Peter Parker, you got something for me? Like, it's still comedic gold, but the weight of this just was so prominent. I loved the way they used Nebula to like connect the timelines because of the technological side of Nebula. Like that was brilliant in my opinion. The going back to all the different fights was just incredible. All the different places. Um, I loved when they went back even further to get the more Pym particles. That whole sequence, Tony and his father, again talking about a child who has lost a parent or a person. You know what that means. I think if maybe if you have both of your parents, and if you do, God bless you, and I'm happy for you. That scene might not have as much resonance, but for the people that have lost parents or close enough family or whatever you want to consider, those scenes were the rocks of this film. And then in the same sequence, Cap sees Peggy, and she mentions, I want to say Captain Britain. She says like Broderick or I can't remember the name, but whatever name she says that Cap hears is the name of Captain Britain. So that's awesome. But then, my God, when Thor, Cap, and Tony go to fight him, and they're like, "What is he doing?" And they're like, "He's just sitting there." And then they walk up, and it's the Trinity. Like it's the three. It's them from the beginning. It's been them, and they're here again. And then when Thanos is digging Stormbreaker into Thor's chest, and Mjolnir rises and shoots over, and Cap catches Mjolnir. I think I almost fainted in the movie theater. Like it was just absolutely breathtaking. Thor, I knew it. that entire sequence, oh my goodness. The Ronin stuff was awesome at the beginning, but staying in that final sequence, my goodness, the on your left when everybody comes back, 10 out of 10. The moment when all of the female Avengers come together, again another moment where I felt like I was gonna faint because it was so powerful. Um, it it's everything. I didn't put it number one because it's almost like a cheat. Like, of course it would be number one. It's Endgame. It's everything. So I kept my top three to my emotional stakes and what I emotionally felt when I first saw these movies. So number three, Iron Man. This is the movie it all rides on. This is the gamble. The biggest gamble of all of this is Robert Downey Jr. The studio considered him to be uninsurable. He was addicted to cocaine, I want to say, and like the Hollywood had given up on him. They were done with Robert Downey Jr. I think a lot of people assumed he would overdose. It was heartbreaking, but that was where he was in his life. And Jon Favreau apparently went to bat for him and was like, "We need him, otherwise this doesn't work." And thank God they did, because if this movie fails, there's no MCU. That's it. It's done. It's like when Batman vs. Superman flopped, it ends an entire franchise. When The Mummy flopped, it tanked an entire dark universe. Like in this movie, when you see everything it brought, when you see how every origin story goes off of this now, every origin story does this thing. The taken away, comes back home, learns new lesson, villain gets similar tech and fights, and like that's the model now. And I can't stress enough just how perfectly executed this movie was. Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane. Um, even Pepper Potts. Gwyneth Paltrow. She's excellent in that movie. Just Terrence Howard, the better roadie. Sorry, I don't know that everybody's gonna agree with me, but Terrence Howard was better. I just like Terrence Howard as an actor more than I like Don Cheadle. Not to say I don't like Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle's an excellent actor. Who the hell am I? But I just really preferred Terrence Howard. That felt. I wish I could see the MCU unfold with Terrence Howard in that role and just the differences, because I really loved his performance in this. That scene on the plane when like the strippers are going and he's so drunk he's at the point in drunkenness where he's giving a monologue. Brilliant. I really liked Obadiah Stane, the use of the paralyzer on Tony, and that was a great twist. That Obadiah was the one to try to get Tony killed. I never saw that coming. I really didn't, and I thought it was an excellent twist. And now knowing that that group was working for the Ten Rings, and the Mandarin and the Ten Rings is now coming back for Shang-Chi, so that's awesome. Um, like I said earlier, though, I saw this movie 3 different times in person when it came out. This was the blockbuster of my mid years. Like I don't know what even to compare to this. Batman Begins wasn't like this. Maybe The Dark Knight was like this, but no X-Men movie ever felt the hype that Iron Man had. It was just a flawlessly executed movie, in my opinion. Oh my god, the the robot in the lab that keeps spraying him and just fucking up, and he's like, "I'm gonna put a dunce cap on you," or he says he's gonna like donate him to the Salvation Army or something. Just brilliant. Jon Favreau's direction and his performance is happy. A tier, excellent. I love Jon Favreau. Yeah, so Iron Man is number 3. Okay, guys, we're 40 minutes in. I'm sorry. I'm gonna make these videos much shorter going forward, but this is the format. I talk a lot, so if this is too much, let me know. But if this is okay and you'll listen to this, let me know as well. Now, my top 2 kind of flip given the day. And if you look over my shoulder, I think you can tell what's going to be number one. Number two is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I hated Captain America. I didn't like the first Avenger that much. I never got the character. To me, he was Superman, and I hate Superman. And I know he's not as powerful as Superman, but it's that, like, he's the old school hokey American beliefs. Like, I never got into that. This movie totally changed my perception on Chris Evans, on the Captain America character, on what a superhero movie could be. This was like an espionage movie. This was like The Dark Knight. This is the MCU's Dark Knight, in my opinion. I thought this movie could have been a best film nominee, quite frankly. The only slight thing is, like, we all knew who the Winter Soldier was, but, like, I don't care. Like I said before, I don't mind if I have spoilers going in. I just want to see how you execute. And the moment the mask comes off and Cap sees that it's Bucky, oh my goodness. The fight scene at the end between him and Bucky and the emotional stakes, and how Cap's like, I won't kill you. And he just lets Bucky beat the shit out of him at that one point. Like, the emotional stakes were massive. Nick Fury. How have I gotten this far into my list and I've never mentioned Nick Fury? I'm sorry, Sam Jackson. Nick Fury, his whole role where, like, he doesn't know who he can trust because his own group has been infiltrated. Black Widow being involved. Sam's introduction. The Falcon. He's incredible. He is excellent. I love him. Papa Doc, man. Who would have guessed? But, like, this movie just made me love these characters. I mean, it's not a film I really have to defend. I think most people will be shocked it's not number one. So, with that being said, Guardians of the Galaxy, my number one MCU movie. Guardians of the Galaxy was the biggest risk the MCU ever took after deciding to build the MCU. But nobody knew who the hell the Guardians of the Galaxy were. I certainly didn't. I mean, they had no common moviegoer would know who the hell they were. Chris Pratt, nobody knew outside of Parks and Rec fans. Dave Bautista was a wrestler. Really? You're casting a wrestler in your big Marvel movie? I mean, the only slam dunk I would say was, like, Zoe Saldana. I mean, Bradley Cooper as Rocket. Everybody was like, Bradley Cooper's playing a raccoon? What the hell is going on here? Like, this movie didn't make sense, and it shouldn't have worked. And instead, it's the best movie they ever made, in my opinion. No movie has had more heart. And I need to start with Star-Lord. And I don't even want to get into this, but it sucks knowing what Chris Pratt's kind of real-life views are. And I've learned that within the last month, and that's heartbreaking. But I'm trying to detach art and artists, and I don't know, it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, and I'm not glorifying him. I'm trying not to, but his performance was breathtaking. He's the most human character through the whole MCU, and that's why when people say Star-Lord ruined Endgame, he had to. Like, it had to be him. It couldn't be a god to falter like that. It couldn't be the smartest man alive, Tony Stark, to falter in that way. It couldn't be the Time Wizard, Doctor Strange, to falter like that. It had to be the most human person there, and that's Star-Lord. It starts off like the second funniest movie, the funniest movie to this point in the MCU, starts off with his mom dying of cancer. Holy shit, we're going right in here. The emotional stakes are insane. Michael Rooker as Yondu was he was good in this movie, but what he does in Guardians 2 is a bit of a letdown in a way, but his performance was top tier MCU performance. Talking about all the actors I mentioned before, I'm a wrestling fan, as you guys know, so the fact that Dave Bautista got this part and then did what he did with this part made me so happy. Like, this was like Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover was Dave Bautista in Guardians. His comedic timing was, I couldn't believe how good he was. Like, and I was a massive Batista fan from wrestling because he was an incredible wrestler. He's one of the most attractive humans alive. He's chiseled from stone. He's charismatic as all hell. And I never thought he could do comedy like this. In wrestling, he was he had this intensity, this intense magnetism about him that was intimidating, and it wasn't funny. It was not funny, and he didn't really ever do funny in wrestling. Um, but just everything worked in this movie. Um, Ronan the Accuser was a fine villain. Like, was he great? No, but he was better than Malekith, I'll tell you that. The actor that played him, I thought, did a great job. Um, my goodness, Bradley Cooper. The emotional, as funny as this movie is, the emotional scenes are always the best. When they're at that planet after they see the Collector, I want to say, and I almost called him Rabbit. Rabbit! And Rocket gets hammered, and he's like, I didn't ask to be created. And he breaks down. Like, that scene, the emotion. Oh my goodness, it was breathtaking. Dave Bautista, like when he calls Ronan to them and then gets the shit beat out of him, and then afterwards he has his moment of realization. And every character gets that moment. Like Star-Lord and Gamora, that relationship building. But the fact that Gamora was not a damsel. She was not a damsel in distress that Star-Lord needed to save. It was more the other way around. Like, if anybody was the damsel, it was Star-Lord. Zoe Saldana played a strong female character in a time when there weren't a lot of them. And I really think her and... I can't even say that. I was going to say her and Star-Lord stole the show, but like I said, Batista, fucking Bradley Cooper. Then you have Vin Diesel as Groot. Groot was like the Baby Yoda before Baby Yoda. It was perfect. The chase scene at the beginning of the movie when they're going after the orb, and it's Rocket, and it's Gamora, and Groot, and Star-Lord. John C. Reilly out of nowhere with a beautiful performance. Like his moment at the end when he's like, he said he's an asshole, but he's not a dick. And then the head of Nova is like, do you trust him? And John C. Reilly gets a real good moment, and he's like, I do. For a movie that we all remember as hysterical, the weight and the gravity to the emotion, and it was all so perfect. And it ends in a dance-off. Like, I love that. This, in the way that I kind of critiqued Black Panther earlier about it was a great movie, but the worst parts were when they did the MCU stuff, an SUV chase, big fight in an open field. Like, those moments hurt. This movie felt like it was totally comfortable with being its own movie. I get the final fight scene in the sky was a little MCU disposable, and that's fine. I get that critique, but like the dance off at the end, like it I don't think there's a better ending for that movie. And the fact that it's Star-Lord and it's Chris Pratt, just everything about that movie worked, and it's my favorite MCU movie ever. I folded up my list, but let me talk to you about some honorable mentions. I think I had a couple. Doctor Strange, I really liked the original Doctor Strange. Far From Home, I really liked, but the main stuff that I didn't like about Far From Home was the stuff I got into about just like Spider-Man being a B-list character in his own movies. I kind of felt that way again. But Jake Gyllenhaal, one of the best villains ever, he's coming back. He's not dead. The next thing I want to do, guys, so I'm going to record my 10 favorite wrestlers maybe right after this or tomorrow. But I also think I want to start doing theory videos, and I think I might do a Spider-Man 3 video. Now this video was 50 minutes long. I'm sorry. Tell me in the comments if this was too much. If you're fine listening to this, like, I'll do videos this long. I just don't want to bore you guys. But let me know what you guys thought of the video. Let me know where you disagree. Talk to me about the movies you think I missed. I didn't have Captain Marvel. I didn't have Guardians 2. I didn't have Iron Man 2 or 3. I didn't have Age of Ultron. There's a lot of stuff missing, I'd assume. There's probably stuff you got, Ant-Man and the Wasp. There's probably stuff you disagree with. Captain America. He wasn't even, the first Captain America was not sniffing this list. So let me know what you guys think. Give me your top 10 MCU movies down below. Let me see where our lists differ and tell me why. So guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed. And the goose is out. Ha!